The last night Khadijah Britton was seen alive didn't begin with silence. It began with screaming, a gun pressed to her head, and a car idling in the dark. What happened next changed everything. On February 7, 2018, witnesses say Khadijah was forced into a black Mercedes, assaulted, threatened, and taken away. She never came home. She was 23, ambitious, athletic, and had already beaten the odds once. But the truth was far more disturbing than anyone imagined. Days earlier, Khadijah had dropped charges against the man accused of brutally attacking her with a hammer. 10 days later, she was gone. Her family waited. Phones stayed silent. Panic replaced hope. And this is where the case took a turn. A missing person report was filed, but the damage was already done. Investigators would soon learn Khadijah's life had been unraveling quietly. After graduating high school against statistical odds, she dreamed of college and sports. But the pull of drugs, parties, and older influences dragged her into dangerous territory. At the center of it all was one man with a violent past. A man law enforcement already knew. Investigators quickly zeroed in on the man last seen with Khadijah, Niji Fallis. His name wasn't new to police files. Domestic violence, kidnapping, drugs, violence followed him like a shadow. And Khadijah had been living inside that shadow. At first, she told her mother he didn't hit her. But bruises told a different story. Then came January 29, 2018. A hammer, a savage attack, charges filed, hope sparked. But 10 days later, she dropped them. What happened in those 10 days still haunts investigators. Pressure? Fear? Threats? What they didn't know then would soon become critical. On February 7th, witnesses claim Fallis arrived at a house where Khadijah was staying. He demanded she come outside. A gun was raised. She was struck, forced into his car. Another woman was there too. According to statements, Antonia Bautista Dawson assisted. Police would later apprehend both individuals. But here's where the case collapsed, and someone had made sure she would never be found. But what investigators would uncover next only raised more questions. The investigation expanded, but progress slowed to a crawl. Detectives canvassed the reservation, searched wooded areas, riverbanks, abandoned properties. Nothing. No clothing. No weapon. No remains. But the truth was far more disturbing. Every search warrant request was met with resistance. Tips came in anonymously, then vanished. Witnesses recanted. Stories changed. Fear poisoned cooperation. Investigators suspected Khadijah had been killed shortly after the kidnapping. But proving it was another matter. Her phone activity stopped abruptly. Bank accounts went silent. No social media. No sightings. To detectives, it was clear. This wasn't a runaway. This was a murder carefully concealed. And that's where things took a turn. Law enforcement believed the crime involved multiple people. That meant secrets. And secrets don't stay buried forever. But in this case, they did. Years passed without an arrest. The case went cold. Files gathered dust. But Khadijah's family never stopped pushing. They spoke publicly. They pleaded. They reminded the world that Dij mattered. That she was loved. That she had dreams stolen from her. The psychological weight crushed them daily. Every holiday passed without answers. Every birthday marked another year stolen. And still, no justice. Investigators revisited the timeline. February 7th. The assault. The car. The accomplice. The silence. Digital footprints. But crucial data was gone. Phones destroyed. Trails erased. Someone had planned this. And until someone spoke, Khadijah's fate would remain a mystery. But pressure was building. And eventually, pressure cracks. And this is where the case began to shift again. Years after Khadijah was taken, investigators quietly reopened the case with fresh eyes. New detectives. New strategies. Old wounds. They re-interviewed witnesses, comparing statements line by line. Inconsistencies emerged. Small ones. Dangerous ones. What happened next changed everything. One witness admitted they had lied out of fear. Another revealed threats made after the kidnapping. Suddenly, the silence made sense. Fear had been weaponized. But still, no physical evidence. No remains. Without that, charges stalled again. And that's where frustration peaked. Detectives believed Khadijah was murdered the night she was taken. They believed her body was hidden somewhere no one dared to search. But belief wasn't enough. The family demanded answers. The community demanded safety. Law enforcement faced pressure from all sides. Then came a renewed reward offer. $10,000. A plea to conscience. A chance to finally end the nightmare. And slowly, tips increased. Some vague, some chilling, because cold cases don't stay cold forever. They wait, they watch, and sometimes they explode back to life. And when that happens, everything changes. As technology evolved, detectives revisited digital evidence once thought useless. Old phones, tower pings, vehicle data. What they didn't know then became critical now. Subtle location overlaps appeared. Gaps in alibis widened. Movements that once seemed random now formed patterns. But the truth was far more disturbing. Someone had deliberately disabled tracking. Phones went dark at precise moments. Routes avoided cameras. This wasn't sloppy. It was intentional. Investigators suspected help from someone who knew how to disappear people. That meant the crime was bigger than one man. And that's where the case grew heavier. The accomplice theory strengthened. Fawless wasn't alone. He didn't act in panic. He acted with confidence. Confidence that no one would talk. Meanwhile, Khadijah's family endured years of uncertainty. Not knowing where her body lay. Not knowing if she suffered. The waiting became a form of torture. Birthdays passed. Graduation anniversaries remembered. A future erased. Law enforcement publicly stated they believed Khadijah, and that's when new whispers began. Whispers that could finally shatter the silence. But would anyone be brave enough to speak? And would it be too late? The renewed attention brought fear back into the shadows. People who had stayed silent for years suddenly felt watched. And that's where things shifted. A confidential informant came forward, claiming knowledge of what happened after the kidnapping. The details were horrifying. According to the tip, Khadijah was killed shortly after being taken. Her body moved multiple times. Concealment was deliberate, brutal, but without physical proof. Investigators hit the same wall. Still, the information changed strategy. Searches expanded to new areas. Cadaver dogs were deployed. Ground-penetrating radar used. Each dig raised hope. Each failure crushed it. But the truth was far more disturbing. Whoever disposed of Khadijah knew the land intimately. Remote terrain. No witnesses. No trails. A perfect place to hide a crime. Detectives believed the community held the answer. But fear remained stronger than justice. Khadijah's family lived, and until someone broke that fear, Khadijah's killer would remain free. But time keeps moving. And secrets don't age well. They rot. And when they rot, they leak. And this case was starting to smell. As the case dragged into years, detectives faced an uncomfortable reality. This might never be solved without a body. But they refused to give up. They began preparing a case built entirely on circumstantial evidence. Prior assaults, witness testimony, threats, patterns of control, history of violence. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Khadijah had been murdered, and someone had gotten away with it. But the truth was far more disturbing. The legal system hesitated. Prosecutors feared acquittal. A loss would end the case forever. So they waited. Meanwhile, Khadijah's family aged under grief. Her mother spoke of guilt, of regret, of wishing she'd done more. But unfinished stories don't disappear. They wait for their ending. Years later, the case still isn't closed. No arrest, no remains, no confession. But law enforcement remains clear. They believe Khadijah was killed. They believe they know who did it. And that belief keeps the case active. What happened next changed the family forever. Accepting that closure might never come. That answers might stay buried. But they refuse to stop fighting. They continue speaking publicly, hoping shame or conscience will break someone. The reward still stands. The plea remains simple. Tell us where she is. Let us bring her home. But the truth was far more disturbing. Silence has protected violence for too long. Fear has allowed a killer to live freely. And that's where this case cuts deepest. Because Khadijah's murder wasn't invisible. It was witnessed, reported, known, and still unresolved. This case isn't over. It's paused, frozen by fear and silence. But history shows us something important. Cases like this eventually break. Someone talks. Someone slips. Someone confesses. And when they do, the truth explodes. Investigators believe time is their ally now. Relationships change. Loyalties fade. Guilt grows heavier. And the longer the wait, the harder it is to carry what happened. If you know anything about what happened to Khadijah Britton, now is the time. The reward remains. The family is waiting. Investigators are listening. Silence protects killers. Truth saves families. And this case is still open. Khadijah was taken violently. She was assaulted. She was likely killed. and her body has never been returned. That alone demands justice. Years have passed, but time does not erase guilt. It sharpens it. Somewhere, someone remembers every detail of that night. The sound of the car door, the fear in her eyes, the moment it went too far. That memory doesn't disappear. It haunts. And eventually, it breaks. Khadijah's story is not just about a crime. It's about accountability, about courage, about ending cycles of violence. And until the truth is told, this story will continue to follow those involved. Because justice may be delayed, but it is relentless, and it always comes for the truth.